As the city lights flickered on, Yunseo received yet another call from her mother, the familiar question echoing through the phone. "Are you coming home this weekend?" Yunseo hesitated, glancing at the city outside her office window. "I'm not sure. Work has been busy," she replied, hoping to avoid her mother's nagging. But her mother didn't give up, quickly turning the conversation toward marriage. "You're an adult now. When will you finally settle down? Think about your family." "Mom, I'm not interested in an arranged marriage." But her mother pushed harder, listing complaints and pressuring her to go on a matchmaking date. Yunseo cut the call short, sighing in relief as she put her phone down. The word arranged marriage stuck with her, fueling her resolve. She remembered her mother's prediction. "You'll be back home crying within a year." But years had passed since she started at ZBS, living alone and working hard, determined to prove her mother wrong. At least at work, no one pressured her about marriage. Her office was the one place she could escape. Yang Soo-chan, the ever-cheerful chief producer, popped up behind her, asking what she was doing. Yunseo replied that she was researching interview candidates, but Soo-chan teased her for still doing junior-level tasks after all this time. She wanted to shout that it was only because he kept assigning her grunt work, but outwardly she forced a laugh. Suddenly, Soo-chan offered her a chance. "PD. Oh, should be running her own show by now. Do you think you can do it?" Yunseo's eyes widened in surprise. Was he really offering her a shot? She didn't hesitate. "Yes, I can do it," her voice brimming with determination. He handed her a file. "You'll be in charge of the next episode of Human Inside by yourself." It was a show that interviewed famous figures and was the highlight of the station's weekly magazine. For Yunseo, this was the opportunity she'd been waiting for. Her heart pounded as Soo-chan warned her, "Here's your interviewee. If you mess up, you're back to being an assistant producer." Gritting her teeth, Yunseo promised to do her best. She glanced nervously at the file. "Is this just a candidate?" But Soo-chan shook his head. "No, it's already confirmed. Start reaching out. And remember, the final responsibility is on you. If they refuse, you're not ready yet." With that, he left, and Yunseo stared. At the file, overwhelmed, she flipped it open. Her first solo assignment was a big one: Choi Kwan-hoo, the owner of Rayon Phoenix. The chapter shifted to the sleek glass tower of Rayon, a young IT company famous for the hit game Exit, and ranked among the best places to work for developers thanks to its unique benefits. But Rayon was making bigger waves by buying the struggling Phoenix baseball team, sending shockwaves through the business world. The assignment felt even heavier as Yunseo realized how much was riding on this one interview. At Rayon's headquarters, Choi Kwan-hoo's assistant delivered the request from ZBS. "We've received an interview request." Kwan-hoo barely looked up. "I already said I don't do interviews." He was the kind of CEO who valued privacy and rarely appeared in the media. But when his assistant mentioned that your in-law's daughter worked at the station, there was a flicker of interest. Kwan-hoo remained cool, asking if the call was direct. Hearing it was just the writer, he insisted, "If PDO calls me herself, I still won't answer unless it's to my personal phone." The assistant wondered aloud why he was being so stubborn, but Kwan-hoo only smirked. "They're the ones who avoided me first." Clearly, there was a complicated history. Meanwhile, Yunseo steeled herself and headed to Rayon's building in person, determined to land her first big interview, even though she knew Kwan-hoo had already refused by phone. She introduced herself at the desk, asking to be connected to the CEO. The staff was surprised, but soon, the secretary, Baek-si-ha, appeared, perfectly composed. After a brief and awkward exchange, Yunseo learned the CEO wasn't in the office, but was likely at Lucas, a wine bar owned by Rayon. She made her way to the bar, half wondering if Kwan-hoo was the kind of CEO who wasted his days drinking. The place was empty except for staff, and she introduced herself again, explaining that his secretary had told her Kwan-hoo was there. "He's inside," came the reply. On the way to his private room, Yunseo asked if the CEO often came here. "Yes, he has a room he always uses," the staff said. She wondered just how often he escaped to this private space. Inside, Choi Kwan-hoo was calmly reviewing documents, his coffee untouched. Hearing he had a visitor, he looked up, surprised. To see Yoon-seo in person. "In-law," he greeted her, his tone playful. The nickname caught Yoon-seo off guard, making her tense up. "Stop," she said quietly. Kwan-hoo's smile faded. "Stop calling me in-law." For a moment, the air was tense and awkward, and Yoon-seo wondered if she'd said the wrong thing. But Kwan-hoo only leaned back and teased her further, suggesting that if he called her by name, she might get attached. Yoon-seo, flustered, quickly denied it, but before she could finish, he addressed her directly, "Unseo." Yoon-seo let out a nervous laugh, clutching her bag. "Don't worry, that will never happen." But Kwan-hoo's calm voice cut through. "Yoon-seo." Her name sounded so natural from his lips that she froze, tension thick in the air. Kwan-hoo quickly regained his cool, leaning back. "Let's just stay in-laws." Yoon-seo forced a smile. "It's not like we're getting divorced." But she knew things weren't so simple. Leaving the room, Yoon-seo's thoughts raced. She'd promised herself not to care, but her sister's divorce was changing everything. Memories of the wedding of the century, the union of Taekang, and Haishin flashed through her mind. Now, rumors of divorce threatened to make their split just as legendary. Back at the Haishin estate, tension reigned. The family patriarch slammed his fist in anger. "Those Taekang bastards!" Soo-jung's mother, trembling, pleaded with her daughter to reconsider divorce, but Soo-jung, calm and resolute, stood her ground. "I'm taking this to court." At dinner, Unseo sat stiffly, the meal more like an interrogation. Soo-jung spoke up, her voice gentle. "Don't go through an arranged marriage like I did. Marry for love." Their mother bristled, but Soo-jung insisted. Anything was better than both daughters ending up divorced from arranged marriages. Unseo was shocked by her sister's newfound strength. Divorce wasn't just a private matter anymore. It was shaking their entire world. While the family unraveled, Unseo's own crisis grew. Her father cut ties with Taekang, her mother hid from society, and Soo-jung became reclusive, tainted by scandal. Meanwhile, Unseo dreaded facing her in-law, Choi Kwan-hoo. No matter how far he'd distanced himself from his family to start Raon, he was still Taekang's second son. Contacting him felt like betrayal, but she needed that interview to save her job, and possibly her future. Desperate, Unseo confronted Kwan-hoo, asking if the divorce affected him at all. "Not at all," he replied, cold and detached. No, matter what she said, he wouldn't budge. Swallowing her pride, she pleaded, for the sake of a peaceful farewell between families, would he grant the interview? He just laughed. "Your brother gets divorced and now I have to do an interview? What nonsense is that?" Unseo tried to lighten the mood. "If you want an interview, you have to smile first." She promised to make him look like a hero in the broadcast, but he shot her a sharp look. "You've really learned to talk like a media person." Flustered, she asked, "What should I do then?" He leaned in, playful but slightly menacing. "So, you'll do anything?" No matter how she answered, he twisted her words, clearly enjoying her discomfort. Finally, Kwan-hoo smiled slyly. "I'll think about it. I'll contact you again. That's enough for today." Defeated, Unseo left, his teasing words echoing after her. For 3 days she waited, frustration mounting at his silence. Slumped over her desk, she muttered, "No contact." She regretted trusting someone so unpredictable. Determined, she messaged him directly. Across town, Kwan-hoo read her message and smirked, enjoying the back and forth. He remembered, the last time they'd really spoken was 15 years ago. Despite knowing each other for years, they were practically strangers. Kwan-hoo claimed not to care about the interview. Baseball was all that mattered. He hated publicity unless it was about his team. But Unseo challenged him, "Face me. If I win, you do the interview." She knew her best chance was in a PC cafe, where her keyboard skills would give her the edge. If he refused, she could always tease him online. His reply, "All right, See you in 3 days. Yoon spent the next days secretly practicing. When the day arrived, she entered the PC cafe in a hoodie, ready for battle. Kwan-hoo, in a sharp suit, stood out like a celebrity. He grinned. You're already here? The contrast between them was comical. She asked if he could take off his jacket. He teased her, but complied. Had to impress investors, he joked. Yoon rolled her eyes. You always say things that could be misunderstood. Trying to stay focused, she suggested they eat. First, she hadn't had dinner yet. Kwan-hoo looked at her and smirked. Eating together? Isn't that basically a date? Their playful rivalry was just beginning. Yoon stared at Kwan-hoo, baffled by his logic. You're saying everyone eating here is on a date, even those guys over there? She waved a hand at the room, frustration showing. Kwan-hoo just smirked, unbothered. They're just eating. But you and I... Before he could finish, Yoon glared. I'm not eating with you. She spun away, pulling up her computer to pretend he wasn't there. But her stomach rumbled, reminding her she hadn't eaten all day. Still, she couldn't bring herself to give in. He teased her about the cafe's food, casually offering to order her something. They have chicken mayo bowls. Want one? She shook her head, keeping up her stubborn act. No, just eat by yourself. He shrugged and leaned back, clearly amused. All right, let's start the game then. Determined not to lose, Yoon steeled herself. It won't take long with you, she muttered. He only grinned. Don't make excuses when you lose. As the game started, it quickly became clear she was no match for him. He racked up 16 runs in no time, while she could only stare at the scoreboard in disbelief. Shoulders slumped. She felt her confidence evaporate. Kwan-hoo reminded her, baseball isn't over until the bottom of the ninth. I know, she replied quietly, trying to hide her embarrassment. 2. Boys behind them marveled at the gap. Man, your boyfriend is ruthless, one laughed. Yoon forced a tired smile. He's not my boyfriend, she said. But they didn't buy it. She tried again. We're in-laws. Blank stares. What's that supposed to mean? She sighed, wondering why she was even explaining this to strangers. Kwan-hoo jumped in, his voice a little too casual. Technically, that's someone you could marry. Yoon shot him a horrified look. What is wrong with this guy? Walking out? Of the cafe, her mind was spinning. The chance for her interview felt like it had slipped through her fingers, lost in misunderstandings and Kwan-hoo's teasing. He caught up, flashing a sly smile. I paid for the game, by the way. Thanks, she replied awkwardly, still thinking about how she'd explain all this at work. He studied her, then asked, So, you're just going to leave? She hesitated, caught off guard. He pressed further. Wasn't the interview important to you? Annoyed, she snapped. Do you enjoy this, in-law? Is messing with me really that much fun for you? He only shrugged. I just say what's true. She clenched her fists. You might not care about this divorce, but it's a huge deal for me. Please, just be more careful with what you say. Kwan-hoo's expression softened slightly. There's no harm in being careful, I guess, he admitted. Yoon tried to read him, but gave up. Whatever. I'll be going now. As she turned away, he called out, Wait, want to play something fairer? She stopped, surprised by the sudden offer. You're serious? He nodded, a rare hint of sincerity in his voice. The baseball game wasn't fair for you. Pick. Any game. A bit of hope flickered in her chest. Give me a second. He checked his watch. You have 1 minute. Panic set in as she tried to think of a game she could actually win. Why is he suddenly being nice? He used to be so different. Finally, inspiration struck. Let's play the liar game. He raised an eyebrow. Liar game? She explained, We can only lie. Whoever tells the truth first loses. The opposite of truth or dare. He laughed. So, broadcast people practice lying with games now? She ignored his jab, pressing on. So, are we doing it? Fine, you go first. Yoon-seo leaned in, her tone mischievous. You're ugly. He hesitated, caught off guard, then tossed his hair like he believed it. The sun is freezing. Cold. The tension faded as the lies grew more absurd. Yoon-seo teased about his secretary, wishing them a happy marriage. Kwon-hoo responded, I'll send you the wedding invite. Bring a big cash gift. She pointed. If I send you a gift, that means you're telling the truth. He dodged her grab for his phone, still in character. If I say it's a wedding gift, it is. All right, he said, playfully strict. One more minute. Your turn to lie. The game carried on, their banter turning competitive and lighthearted. For a moment, all the stress faded, replaced by laughter and that strange sense of understanding that only comes from being perfectly mismatched. As the evening air turned cool, Kwon-hoo's teasing dropped away. He looked at her more gently. Honestly, if you'd said just one word, I would have given you the interview. She tried to brush it off, but something in his eyes made her pause. Suddenly, memories flooded back. 15 years earlier, cherry blossoms falling, Kwon-hoo riding his bike as a student, and her younger self watching from afar, both of them full of quiet longing and missed chances. Snapping back to the present, Kwon-hoo stepped closer, voice soft. Say it. Please, senior. For a second, the lines between past and present blurred, and Yoon-seo found herself standing in the gentle glow of nostalgia. 15 years ago, under a sky scattered with cherry blossoms, 14-year-old Yoon-seo walked into school, already feeling the ache of hunger. Her mother's strict rules about weight meant she skipped breakfast, her cereal snatched away before she could even eat. Tired and irritable, she tried to push through her day, only to be shoved by Wang Ji-hyun, the school bully, who mocked her size for everyone to hear. Yoon-seo tried to ignore the teasing, but it stung. Lost in thought, she suddenly heard someone yell a warning. Before she could react, a baseball came flying at her. Everything went dark. The next thing she knew, she was waking up in a hospital bed, surrounded by worried faces. Choi Kwon-ho, the ace of the school baseball team, sat nearby, apologizing for hitting her with his pitch. He gently explained it was just a mild concussion, and she'd be fine. But before Yoon-seo could respond, her mother's voice echoed through the halls, frantic and angry. Realizing the situation, Yoon-seo urged Kwon-ho to leave before her mother arrived, but he stayed by her side, refusing to abandon her. Her mom burst in, demanding to know who was responsible. Kwon-ho immediately confessed, apologizing for his mistake, but Yoon-seo was left embarrassed and helpless, unable to stop the confrontation. That night, still hungry and frustrated, Yoon-seo snuck out to a chicken restaurant, bringing all her saved money so her mother couldn't take it from her. She sat alone, finally enjoying a hot meal. The shop owner was surprised to see her again, especially when she paid with her entire pouch of coins, but Yoon-seo was simply grateful to eat in peace. While eating, Yoon-seo explained to the owner that her mom always took her money, so she had to keep it safe if she wanted to buy snacks. As she clutched her coin pouch, her phone rang, startling her. Was it her mom? Instead, it was Kwon-ho checking up on her after the accident. Panicking, she handed the phone to the owner, who awkwardly told Kwon-ho he wasn't Yoon-seo's father. Relieved, Yoon-seo thought back to Kwon-ho's reputation. The school's brightest, fastest player, someone everyone admired. She never expected their lives would cross like this. After that incident, Kwon-ho started missing school more often, and eventually stopped coming altogether, leaving Yoon-seo with a mix of frustration and regret. She tried to distract herself, vowing to find an even better interviewee for her project, but the truth nagged at her. If she'd only won the liar game, she could have secured an interview with Kwon-ho. She just couldn't admit he might have been right about her fears. Her doubts kept her up at night, worried about disappointing her boss, and dreading the thought of being pushed into unwanted marriage meetings by her mother if things went wrong. Still, she refused to give in, determined to chase her own dreams instead of letting others decide for her. Sitting at her desk one day, Yoon-seo suddenly remembered something hidden in her wardrobe, a secret that could give her an advantage over Kwon-ho. Her thoughts drifted back to a summer night years ago when she found Kwon-ho sitting outside a restaurant. He greeted her warmly, But when she pressed him about missing school, he confessed he'd run away from home because his family never supported his dreams. Yoon Seo could see the pain behind his smile and decided to treat him to some fried chicken. They ate together. Yoon Seo asked how he was managing. Kwon Ho admitted he was working part-time and staying wherever he could, struggling but determined not to give up. He shared that baseball taught him nothing was decided until the very end. No matter how hopeless things looked, anything was possible if you kept going. Yoon Seo reflected that most people called that kind of hope a dream, but Kwon Ho was determined to chase his anyway. She quietly asked when he was planning to leave, not ready to say goodbye. Moved by his vulnerability, Yoon Seo offered Kwon Ho her entire savings, handing over her precious coin pouch. In that gesture, she gave him not just her money, but her heart, a silent love letter. But her first love ended quietly, leaving behind only a simple loan agreement and an unspoken promise. A clear blue sky stretches above the Leon building, sunlight flooding through sleek glass windows. Inside, the president's assistant arrives with a letter. "President, your in-law's young lady sent a letter." The president, wary, asks, "Why?" The assistant simply suggests he check it himself. As he takes the letter, memories flood back, painful, unresolved. He feels a bittersweet relief. At least she hasn't given up on the interview yet. A flashback lingers. "If only you'd said one word, I would have given you the interview." Her wounded face haunts him. She thinks, if you were going to end it with that expression, it would have been better to just curse at me. In the present, he finds a familiar chicken restaurant flyer inside the folder. "You still kept this?" he murmurs, surprised she held on to it all these years. The flyer is like Pandora's box, unlocking a wave of nostalgia and regret. Meanwhile, Yoon Seo can't shake her guilt. Are their old memories just chains holding them back? The scene shifts to the ZBS broadcasting station cafeteria. Most people lose their appetite under stress, but Yoon Seo is starving. She eyes her pork cutlet, telling herself she'll just exercise later. But as she picks up her fork, her phone buzzes. Choi Kwon Ho is calling. Her heart skips a beat, knowing it's about the promissory note. Uncertain, she hesitates before answering. She tries to sound casual as she answers. Kwon Ho bluntly asks where she is, catching her off guard. Annoyed by his abruptness, she thinks he must have forgotten all. His manners. Trying to end the call, Yoon Seo says she's eating and asks to talk later. "You must be at a restaurant," he notes, and simply replies, "Okay." She's left confused, wondering what he's really after. Back at her table, Yoon Seo guesses he's calling about the note. There's no way he'd ignore something that important. Just then, she's startled. Kwon Ho himself walks into the cafeteria. She freezes, panicked. She thinks, "I need to run." But before she can escape, he finds her. Teasing, he tells her to finish her meal. Flustered, Yoon Seo insists she's done. He glances at her plate and jokes she'll turn into dried radish strips at this rate. She fires back, calling him mean as ever, and he grins, saying she curses so politely. Her thoughts are interrupted by the arrival of PD Yang and his crew. Panic. If PD Yang sees her with Kwon Ho, rumors will start. "Let's get out of here," she urges, dragging Kwon Ho away. He teases her about having a secret lover, but she snaps back, shutting him down. Outside, the tension builds. "We're standing in the perfect spot to cause trouble," Yoon Seo warns. "You're really making me want to hit you." He just shrugs, reminding her she sent the note to his workplace first. Trying to lighten the mood, Yoon Seo forces a smile. "I didn't think you'd care, but you remembered." Kwon Ho grows serious. "There's no need to repay me 100 times. Yoon Seo won't give in. "Just give me an interview." In her mind, 2 million won multiplied by 100 equals a fortune, but for just one interview it seems fair. Still, she insists on repaying it fully. He shakes his head. An interview is enough. She pushes back. She wants to repay him with something more valuable. He laughs. "Then give the interview first, we'll talk about the rest. You can't split it like that." She calls after him, but he just smiles. Look forward to it, in-law, how I'll repay you 100 times over. As night falls, Kwan-ho sits at his desk, deep in thought. His assistant notices his restlessness and asks if something's on his mind. Kwan-ho muses, how exactly do I repay this so it truly feels like 100 times? The assistant says bluntly, if you borrowed money, repay it with money. Kwan-ho feigns offense. It doesn't suit his delicate nature. Maybe, he suggests, Kwan-ho could repay with something truly precious. Kwan-ho's eyes light up. Changing the subject, Kwan-ho asks for the list he requested. The assistant hands over a folder, names of people with bad blood against Chairman Choi, potential buyers for his shares. Kwan-ho weighs his next move. The narrative shifts to business headlines. Rayon, a small gaming company, has bought a struggling baseball team. The media makes it look glamorous, but behind the scenes, most directors were against it. Rayon was too small, but Choi Kwan-ho swayed the decision by personally promising to cover 30% of the costs. His dedication made all the difference. In the office, his advisor breaks the silence. Why not ask PD Oh Yoon-seo for help? Kwan-ho considers it. His advisor suggests a deal, give her the interview, and in return, ask her to persuade her sister. He adds that even a major league player is a fan of human inside, making the interview even more valuable. Kwan-ho is hesitant. Using Yoon-seo feels wrong. He remembers when she lent him money so he could go to America, a kindness he never forgot. Now everything is tangled and complicated. Flashback. 5 years ago, Kwan-ho returns to Korea for his brother's wedding after 10 years in the US. He feels frustrated and lost, resentful but dutiful. He knows it wasn't really his brother's fault he quit baseball, but he still needs someone to blame. Did I really fly 14 hours just for this? He wonders, feeling foolish and out of place. Turning to leave, he bumps into a woman in a pink dress who apologizes in a rush. Their hands meet, an impulsive touch, and the world seems to stop. He looks at her, stunned. You, he says, recognition dawning in his eyes. She stares back, cheeks flushed. You're Oh Yoon-seo, aren't you? The realization settles. Between them, surrounded by flowers and soft music, a fateful reunion, sparking something neither expected. The wedding hall glows with golden light as Kwan-ho finds himself unexpectedly face-to-face with Oh Yoon-seo, a woman he never thought he'd see again. For a moment, the world falls away. He recognizes her immediately, even as she tries to hide. Her reaction. There's tension and confusion. Both of them remember their past, but neither wants to be the first to admit it. Trying to break the awkwardness, Kwan-ho reminds Yoon-seo of their middle school days and the lucky pouch she once gave him. But just as things start to feel familiar again, his older brother Kang-hoo interrupts. Surrounded by bodyguards, Kang-hoo's presence is overpowering, and suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. Under the weight of family expectations, Yoon-seo quickly steps back, pulling away from the brief moment they shared. Kwan-ho is left standing alone, watching her disappear into the crowd, wondering why fate keeps drawing their paths together, only to pull them apart again. Elsewhere, Yoon-seo takes out her frustrations in the gym. She attacks the punching bag, taped with Kang-hoo's photo, her anger echoing through the room. Every punch is fueled by confusion and resentment, especially at Kwan-ho, whose intentions keep shifting. He said he'd pay her back with an interview, but now insists on money instead. She can't understand his stubbornness, and it drives her crazy. Just as she's cooling off, her phone rings. Kwan-ho is calling, catching her off guard early in the morning. The conversation is blunt. He asks if he should come to her or if she'll come out. Yoon-seo's irritation flares as she tells him to stay away, only for him to abruptly announce he'll do the interview and then immediately hang up. Shocked, Yoon-seo tries to call him back, but only gets his voicemail. She can't believe it. After all this time, is he finally agreeing? Why is he so impossible to reach? Determined, Yoon-seo rushes out, running through the city streets without caring how she looks. In her mind, she's convinced. Even if he drives her crazy, if he's really willing to give the interview, she'll chase him down. She sprints to her car, barely catching her breath as she calls his secretary and learns he's at the Ilsan IT Expo. She doesn't know exactly where he is, but she refuses to give up. Standing in the parking lot, she debates what to text him. Should she call him senior or brother-in-law? The indecision nearly paralyzes her until a friend appears, teasing her about her obsession with Kwan-hoo and lightening the mood for just a moment. When Yoon-seo finally finds him, their playful banter picks up right where it left off. Kwan-hoo teases her about not cursing at him fully, but Yoon-seo is too focused on what matters. She wants to know if he's truly going to do the interview. Kwan-hoo dodges the question, suggesting they eat together first, just the two of them. Their conversation shifts from awkward to lighthearted. He tries to order chicken, she refuses. He brings up pork cutlets, and their exchange is filled with jokes and playful stubbornness. For a brief moment, it feels like old times, like maybe they can find common ground again. Afterwards, in a quiet restaurant, Kwan-hoo suddenly brings up the topic of debt, mentioning an enormous sum of 200 million, which throws Yoon-seo off guard. She just wants to talk about the interview, but he insists on making the repayment more meaningful. He explains that giving her just money feels too impersonal. Instead, he wants her to accept something special. The only condition for the interview, he says, is that she agrees to it. Confused and a bit anxious, Yoon-seo watches as Kwan-hoo produces a small box. Her eyes widen as he opens it to reveal a sparkling ring, announcing that it's worth over 200 million. The moment is surreal. Yoon-seo's thoughts race. What kind of man gives a ring and immediately talks about its price? Kwan-hoo, meanwhile, silently reminds himself not to mention that the ring was passed down from his grandmother. Overwhelmed, Yoon-seo realizes that if she accepts the ring, it'll settle the debt, but it means so much more. Memories flash back of the times they sat at opposite ends of the table, acting like strangers despite being in-laws. But now, Kwan-hoo looks at her with sincerity, determined to be honest for the first time. He tells her that the ring will be the starting point for something new, a sign that their relationship is about to change. He hopes that, in time, they'll be able to reach each other. Silence hangs between them, charged with anticipation and uncertainty. Yoon-seo hesitates, caught between shock, disbelief, and the faint hope that things could truly change. After a moment, Yoon-seo quietly calls his name, the weight of everything unspoken hanging in the air as she finally prepares to give her answer.